Okay, let's go. Yep.
So, I'm sorry for late. Our first presenter of the English session is Orest Zub, who is a digital nomad, traveling all around the world. He has already visited more than 130 countries, but when Russia attacked Ukraine, he went back and took the role of a reporter to provide truthful information for the rest of the world. And now he will tell us if we still can travel in Ukraine.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So guys, let's start. We had a small delay, but anyway, that will be fine as for now. This is probably one of the most unique presentations over here, because usually you think about going to some places for recreational reasons. Ukraine is definitely, I would say, like a place for the educational visit, yes? And some of you might think, like, what the hell I'm going to do there? But hopefully, as a result of this presentation, you'll be inspired to visit Ukraine, which is your neighbor, and I'm sure you have many friends there, because this connection really means a lot. And I would like to start with the gratitude to Hungarian people, to Hungary first of all, because just 1 week last year, I was visiting and enjoying my best time in Budapest, together with my beautiful wife, microphone, together with my wife, together, no, again, hey, yeah, me, my wife, the opera house, we were just having a nice long weekend in Budapest. Obviously, at that time, the entire world was already boiling, and people didn't know what was happening, but it was still before the war. I took one of amazing Wizz Air flights, actually my favorite low-cost company, and I flew to Baku, to Azerbaijan. And there we visited the Karabakh area. It was still after the Second Karabakh War, but before the recent offensive. So there I've seen the destructive results of the war, with the thousands of lives being completely devastated, with cities ruined. And I thought to myself, thanks God this is not happening to Ukraine. Thanks God that our generation is not living through this. Little did I know that less than a week from that moment, Russia attacked Ukraine. Yeah, I was in Lviv. I came back from Baku to Kyiv 4 days before the invasion, and none of our people in our group took the flight. Yeah, because I felt that I want to be together with my people, with my country, at the toughest moment. So what happened is, on February 24th, you all remember this horrific morning, right? It's very close to you. Russia did a massive invasion, landslide, and then attacked 70 different objects all around the country with a long-range missile. So me staying in Lviv over here, which is basically the same distance to Kyiv as to Budapest, we didn't even think that it's possible to shoot 2,000 kilometers across the country, right? So this is me and my family in the basement, which is a regular Austro-Hungarian type building, underwise. So we thought okay, what was happening? And then, things move on. You have to take some kind of decision. And this provoked a massive, massive humanitarian crisis, the biggest since the World War II. You remember millions of people going. Hungary received hundreds of thousands of refugees back then, and among them, there were also my family. So first of all, there is a lot in common between my native city, Lviv, and Budapest. For over 150 years, we were in the one country, right? And many people of Lviv remember the time of the 19th century as the golden era of our city. So if some of you were in my city, you know that it looks very, very similar architecture-wise to Budapest. That's why here I feel really at home and really comfortable. I just need to practice more Hungarian, but otherwise it's okay. So this is my sister, another sister, and my mother. Yeah, there is also a nephew sleeping somewhere. Naturally, most people would travel west to Poland. But because this was the main exit route, the entire borders were completely blocked. It was impossible to pass the border unless you want to wait for 3 days or so. Yeah? So then when my family couldn't make it to the west, they thought, okay, let's just go south across the Carpathian Mountains. Even though I already arranged a place for them with my friend in nearby Poland, I told them, you go down, and then you can, through Slovakia, go up again. Google deliberately switched off Google Maps back then in order to prevent Russian forces to navigate through the area. Yeah? So basically, you can imagine millions of people in Ukraine in winter at night driving without Google Maps. So what was happening, because I like hiking and I'm like a road driver myself, I was on the phone with my sister, this one, explaining her by memory how to go through the mountain passes in Ukraine. Eventually, the next morning, they made it to Hungary, found some hotel, slept over, and my sister was like really exhausted, and I thought like what would be the best decision for them, but they had to move somehow because more people were coming. And then I remembered that many years ago, I met this guy in Budapest through couchsurfing. Peter is over here. Where are you, Peter? Show your face, show your heroic face to everyone, yeah. So we met, it was like what, 17 years ago or like long time ago. And after that, we met over and over again. We spent some time in Mexico together. Every time I'm traveling somewhere to Southern Europe, I always make my first stop in Budapest, and I cannot leave the city until I meet Peter. So I called Peter, I tell Peter, look, we have this kind of situation. Peter told, or stop, it's done, no problem. So what happened afterwards? I received a picture the following day with my family, having a nice, beautiful dinner with Peter, Noemi, and their 2 kids. Yeah, so really, thank you, Peter, thank you, Hungarian people, for making it happen. Okay, let's carry on. My name is Orest. I am native to Lviv, Ukraine. It's pretty easy to find what I'm doing online. Just do this, Orest, Google, and all the social media, and you will get it. As many of you, as many people on this event, I was following the dream of personal geographical freedom, traveling the world. As many people usually start, you do the backpacking stuff, somewhere in Southeast Asia, living, in these $5–6 per night bungalows and so on. And slowly you work your way up, you become more mature, you start earning like a little bit more money, and eventually I founded a few online ventures which basically were financing my trips. Even though I started all the way back in 2011, so far I visited over 130 countries around the world thanks to this online activity, and I cannot imagine myself without traveling, even though when you're kind of, already living your dream and something big happens like war, you need to take some kind of decision. And my decision was to come back and to do whatever I can, meaning engaging all the international community of friends I had and my professional skills to somehow contribute to our resistance, first of all, and then for our victory. So 2022 was the first year in 2 decades when I didn't visit any new country. For a traveler, it's a big tragedy, as you know. But obviously, when we see the balance of importance of things, this completely doesn't matter. So what I was involved is, first of all, is the war reporting. I was interacting with different media companies around the world, attracting them to Ukraine, reporting from the ground, and establishing connections between the local NGO associations and foreign organizations. So to build more and more bridges, and this kind of activity could combine and go it on a better scale. Also engaged my social media for different kind of like crowdfunding campaigns, starting from the military topic towards just Starlinks or civilian stuff. So I dedicated the entire year to this. And what I also noticed is that people are afraid to come to Ukraine. But I believe, and if you were like visiting many, let's say, war-torn areas or conflict zones, usually like the people who are the most sweetest one, And one of the biggest things, like if you think like what would be the biggest contribution you can have to a local community. Remember like in early April when the Russian forces retreated from the surroundings of Kyiv, how every self-respected president of European country were making a pilgrimage traveling to Kyiv. Because this is the first step, how you establish connection, and then you just develop your relations afterwards. Yeah? So I firmly believe that the more people come to Ukraine, the more people come to Hungary or Budapest, the better it is for the city. Because people see it, they understand it, they build connections, they invest, they build bridges, and so on. So in the second year, when basically the main resistance was already happening and different organizations, personalities started to specialize on things, because first you resist and you do everything, and then you have to think, what's your marathon? Like, how do you work far? My mission was to engage as many people to Ukraine as possible, which is not an easy topic. Who of you visited Ukraine since the Russian invasion? 2 people. 2 people for over 100, you see? Why? Because you're afraid, because you don't know, because there are different stereotypes, and so on. So I'm going to try to break those stereotypes today. And the climax of this activity was organizing our organization of Nomad Mania trip to Ukraine. And we're not talking only about Lviv. We're talking about Kyiv, we're talking about Kharkiv, and we are talking even about Izum, which is very close to the front line, which was under Russian occupation for over than half a year. So this was quite a project to organize on all levels, as you can imagine. And Nomad Mania is the online travel platform which I represent. I am the managing partner over there. And there are different options how you can use it for your traveling. So first of all, in Nomad Mania, we divide the world not only into countries, but also into regions, enabling people to go deeper and explore much more than just country ticking, than just visiting the capital. So that would be an example for Hungary. Hungary is divided into 3 Nomad Mania areas. So we will now zoom in into Budapest center north part. There are different places of interest that we recommend you to visit, or somebody else even zoom in like this. It's all interactive. And for those people who want to go further, we have a kind of like all the types of different lists. Caves, places to eat, some vintage hotels, and something what we're really proud of is a Dare places, which is a distinctive alternative remote extreme places. This is already for a travel geek, and this is just a tip of the iceberg of our online platform. There also we have the list of biggest travelers. And some of the biggest world travelers, like half of people who visited every country in the world, have their profiles on our platform. Biggest Hungarian travelers are also here, and this is the top 8 list. I see Ildiko over there. Ildiko actually who visited every country in the world first, right? Among people in Hungary. Then we have Gabor, the organizer, yeah. Gungi, my good friend that we were meeting together in Lviv, and actually thanks to her I am here, because 2 weeks ago I was transiting from Budapest. She hosted me in her house, and she told Oras, why don't you come and share your knowledge about Ukraine? So, there are so many moving parts all together, and we would really love to have more users from Hungary. So please check out Nomad Mania. It's free to use, and this can really serve as a travel inspiration for you, but also as the way how you can store all your previous trips, which are not easy to remember, as you know. This is, for example, my profile. We have friends, options, recent updates, different places of interest you visited, and so on. Yeah, so check it out, Nomad Mania. And now basically Ukraine itself. So who already got some kind of temptation that maybe I would like to visit Ukraine? Who is still afraid to go to Ukraine? Let's try to explore, right? First of all, we do the Lonely Planet style, yeah? Get in. All the borders in Ukraine are open, obviously apart from Russian and Belarusian border. So every border with every European Union country, including Moldova, are functioning properly as before. Because this is the question I usually receive, are the borders open or closed? No problem. How you can get there? Car, you can cross the border on foot, which is where you can do buses from every place, BlaBlaCar, even by train. So now we have trains from Budapest, from multiple Polish cities, from Košice. No problem. Just go to this website, buy online. I think for Budapest train it's a different website, but this is for a Polish direction. If your nationality requires a visa, then Ukraine is a visa country. But for all of you, obviously, I believe it's nothing. What I figured out recently when we were organizing a trip to Ukraine for Nomad Mania users, 3 people from Costa Rica who usually do need a visa to Ukraine couldn't get it online because the e-visa process is down. So just a regular application visa process into the embassy. Let's zoom in from Hungary. So there are 4 border crossings along pretty narrow border between Hungary and Ukraine. Yeah? Chop is kind of congested most of the time because this is the main highway, but I usually drive by highway around Nigrehaza and then take Kosony or Berehovo, like these borders by car, like never you will stand in line. Yeah? And they operate 24 hours. The hubs in Ukraine would be Uzhhorod and Mukachevo in Transcarpathia province of our country. These are the trains. So like the most efficient way for you to get would be probably to take the direct train Budapest Mukachevo, which departs at 7:20 in the morning and arrives at 3:30 to Mukachevo. This means that from Mukachevo you can take an overnight train further, even all the way to Kyiv, or you can take the afternoon train to Lviv. So it's an easy one-day ride, without any complications. If you want to be more flexible, for example, you can take every train to Zahony, which is at the border, and then there are multiple trans-border trains operating like almost 1 or every 2 hours, and then you just make your way after that. So logistically, easy. How to get around? Same. All different conventional means of transport. However, the trains are the best. Ukrainian trains, I think they are, in terms of efficiency, now they're better than Deutsche Bahn. Maybe like almost reaching Japanese stuff, but they are not maybe that comfortable, but in terms of timing, it works very, very well. Because trains are the lifeline of Ukrainian logistics, of Ukrainian mobility. So basically, you go online, buy the app, and like, what about your train, Ildiko?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah.
At the same time, departs minute to minute.
I told you I was more worried about the Hungarian map than
Yeah,
the Ukrainian
yeah,
trains,
yeah.
to be honest.
So that is like very efficient, very transparent, and so on, yeah? There are options of intercity trains, which are the regular seating fast trains, which would take you, for example, from Lviv to Kyiv in 5 hours. Or there are very comfortable sleeper trains. So for example, in order to get from Lviv to Kharkiv, we took a 15-hour ride sleeper train. But since we were limited to 20 people, I booked the entire train carriage, and we, like a Kim Chen-in, were traveling with a private train carriage, basically. Yeah, so it was very, very comfortable. Now, safety. Yeah, the biggest concern for most people is like, what if I'm going to die, right? Something what you have to understand is that when we think of a country at war, we imagine situation when there are street fights, when there are some guerrilla fighters from every bush can hit you and so on. That's like really dangerous on the street. And it is not the case in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we have a classic frontline war, which means that there is a front line, there are occupied territories in red, and everything the rest is under Ukrainian control. This front line is basically not moving already for almost a year. So, first of all, the only risk is if you reach the front line, but I doubt you will go there, because starting from 50 kilometers around, there are military checkpoints, logistical centers, and so on. Without license, you're not going to get there. And the rest is like streets of Budapest, with people walking their dogs, kids going to school, restaurants pouring drinks to people, and that's it. It's hard to imagine, but this is how the war works. If you think of World War II movies, practically in every movie you have, let me see. So if you think of World War II movies, practically in every movie you have obviously the combat filming, but you also have some cabaret stuff. You know, when soldiers go and drink and hang out with girls. So this is like kind of how we have it in Ukraine. But the more you go to the west, the more normalish life is. If we are talking about these areas over here, and the foreigner just comes down from the sky, not reading the news, very, very little evidence of war, and just to imagine that this is happening. It doesn't mean that it's not happening, yeah? But in terms of the everyday life, it looks absolutely normalish. Then, human are the people that afraid of what they don't understand, yeah? And in terms of Ukraine, the only risk for civilian population who doesn't fight on the front line is being hit by the direct missile. So we are talking about like a rocket which goes up into the air and then fall down somewhere like 1,000 kilometers away, yeah? Considering the size of the country and the amount of rockets being hit to Ukraine, the risk of being shot by particular rocket hit is probably 1,000 times smaller than getting in a traffic accident in Budapest. This is for you to understand. In Lviv, during the entire time of war, there were 11 casualties because of the missile attacks, because I will show you how does it work. So, this is me on both pictures from the reporting sites. This is the area devastated by massive artillery fire. And this is the rocket missile hit in Lviv. Yeah? So most of the massive destruction you can see, like the towns being turned down, this was done by artillery. What does it mean? When the army is approaching close enough, so it has enough volume to shoot on a massive scale. Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and all those areas. With rockets, you cannot provide such a huge scale of devastation because there are simply not enough of them and they are too expensive. That's basically it. So the artillery range is between 20 to 30 kilometers. Meaning, if you stay outside the artillery range, your similar safety situation 50 kilometers from the border and 500. This is the front line, yeah? So if you are in this area next to the front line, there is a risk, like would be, let's say, you drive with the car and there are a group of people and you stop for a cigarette for 5 minutes. And then the enemy drone is going, they see like there is a bunch of people smoking, let us try to hit there. This is possible, yeah? But first of all, you have to be 20 kilometers from the fighting zone, where you probably will not go anyway. And even if they see you, they will think like, should I spend my artillery to you, or I better shoot like some military facility, for example, right? Still, even in this situation. So this is a rocket hit. Okay, so basically there is a rocket, it flew in Lviv, my native city, 1,500 kilometers. How many people died here? How do you think?
A cat.
Hmm?
A cat.
What means a cat?
Yeah. One cat.
Cat, one cat, okay. Cat didn't die, fortunately.
Wow.
Yeah. So, look, because it hit in the middle of the buildings, and with the shock wave, it really badly damaged the buildings. Even in this situation, when people were sleeping inside, no one died, which is a miracle, kind of, but that's how it works. I'll give you another example. This is a direct hit of the rocket missile, also in Lviv. Looks much more apocalyptic already, right? Unfortunately, 10 people died in this attack. This was the single biggest death toll in Lviv out of one hit, and one of 2 casualties. The other one was more than a year ago because somebody was hit by the shrapnel in the warehouse. This was a direct hit into the building. So imagine a huge ballistic rocket flying to 2,000 kilometers, and then it hit the building. Historical building, 100 years old. It kind of eats the first, like the upper floor. So people living in those floors survived. Only people who were living in the upper floors died. So what is the probability that you will be sleeping here in the middle of the night in one of the random buildings among millions of people? It's very, very low. And even if you be there and God forbid you'll be targeted with this direct missile, I believe this is a fast track to heaven straight away. Nobody is so lucky. So this is just to understand about the probability, yes? And like there are much other more probable chances to die than this, basically. And besides that, when we think of country at war, we usually think of, you know, like tough military officers, bribes everywhere, like terrible checkpoints, confiscation of property, and so on. This is not the case in Ukraine. Because the survival of Ukraine is only possible thanks to Western support, policemen, all the officials, soldiers are super friendly. So everybody's trying to be very, very professional, and because of this approach, you've seen how Ukraine marketed itself properly on the international scale. In a positive sense, trying to be professional, open, and so on. So soldiers are completely fine, yeah, and I don't know, like you just, I was surprised how friendly they are, because I've been to so many conflict zones around the world, starting from West Africa to Karabakh to Kashmir, Middle East. In Ukraine, it's kind of, you know, I don't know, like polite war. I don't know how to tell, but officials are really acting professionally. And that's how the life looks like in Lviv. This is one of the central squares in Lviv in October. If we think of Poltava, you know, Poltava is like way in the east near Kharkiv, between Kharkiv and Kyiv, 200 kilometers from Kharkiv, which is kind of badly damaged already. Poltava feels absolutely normal, even though like 200 kilometers from the front line. However, like still you can spot some indications of abnormality. So this is the picture I took in Lviv, and you can see the soldier who probably came back to rotation. He's watching his phone, you know, I don't know, chatting with comrades or something, and his daughter is just playing by herself. Do you remember this? We were on the tour there, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. This is the picture from eastern Ukrainian town of Trostianets, where the girl just went for a coffee, like sitting next to the ruins. So it's very polarized situation in many senses. But people carry on that. So take a look, understand it. If you go, let's say, anything west, no, it's not even work geographically, because I told you 100 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers doesn't really matter because of the logic and the reality how the artillery fire works. About particular places, yeah, if you think of. Okay, everything you need to know about Lviv during the war is that there are guided tours happening every day. I will not stop on this, just for you to understand, right? At the same time, in the parallel reality, the same city, there are soldiers' funerals every day, and our cemetery of military is growing also daily. Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Kyiv is one of the best protected city in terms of the like air defense system, like similar to Tel Aviv at the moment. 90-something% of hits which go over Kyiv get destroyed in the air. It functions absolutely normal now with busy streets. However, this is a target of more attacks. The difference is that you stay under the kind of shield, so you hear explosions, but they don't reach you, which is also very weird. It's like a magic shield or so. Then, you all heard about the atrocities of Bucha, Irpin, the areas which were under occupation around Kyiv for 1 month at early stages of war. This happened almost 2 years ago. This is still the bridge which served as the evacuation point. You probably remember pictures, people sheltering there and so on. So to understand how the things are going there now, because I've been there several times and the last one was less than a month ago, the local travel association of Ukraine is developing a memory travel route. How to speak to visitors, what to show, in which sense we should preserve scars of war and which not. And we were the first pilot group that actually tested it. Some places are still destroyed. Those will be preserved. This will be rebuilt. Otherwise, this is this regular street of Irpin. It just looks absolutely normal now. This is Borodyanka. You remember this picture, right? This is how the street looks like now. It's not a Photoshop. This is like exactly how it is. So this reconstruction level around Kyiv is going very, very fast. It's a different situation in Kharkiv, because Kharkiv was on the side of the front line for quite some time. Our group made it all the way there, which was kind of a big deal for 20 foreigners, not being diplomats, journalists, or humanitarian workers, to make it that far. But we still did it. This is the scene of the block where our hotel is located. So think of it like this. I was organizing everything on like security measures, permissions, and so on. And I booked a hotel, 4-star hotel in Kharkiv. In 2 days, the manager is calling me and telling like, Mr. Zub, I just want to tell you that we had to move your rooms because after the recent explosion nearby, the front side of the hotel was destroyed, so we had to move your room. But otherwise, everything is fine. That's the relation, how people in Kharkiv carry on now. And you know, we had to take the side entrance to the hotel, but then you had the reception with nice ladies checking us in, you know, and shower, everything. It was just the facet group was destroyed, but otherwise they are carry on. Yeah, we had a tour there as well. So many buildings in central Kharkiv are badly damaged, and they're not reconstructed because the city is still pretty close. Otherwise, it's grand, huge, this early 20th century architecture and so on. And we even made it to Izum, the city which was 6 months under Russian occupation, and it's still now pretty close to the front line, although further than the artillery range. It's approximately 40 kilometers. The city is badly damaged. However, just take a look how people care. So you have the destroyed building over here and all around, but the flowers are well taken care of. So you know, it's really important to preserve your level of existence there, you know, and the fact that people stay already means a lot. Many places are completely wiped out. On the front line, this is just an example of one village like this. And you might think of, like, what the heck is that? You know, like, why would you go there to see people suffering, to take pictures, to feel like a cool guy next to destroyed buildings or so, yeah? It's an important topic, yeah, it's an ethical question, and we at Nomad Mania are completely against the dark tourism. I already told you my philosophy of being in the place means a lot, because you connect, because you understand things better. And your vision of a place is very, very different to the reality on the ground. So being somewhere, feeling it, understanding and telling is important. And the biggest ethical question is how local people will react on me, right? This is how they react. So the girls invited us to a local place where they're making camouflage nets for soldiers. We brought humanitarian aid to these ladies in that village that I was showing you before. This is my friend in Izum who is happy to see me all the time, and their gratefulness was beyond imaginable that foreigners are really interested and they really care to go there. This lady was telling us, like, please tell to the entire world that we are here, that we are carrying on. Nobody was hosting us that warm in Ukraine as people in Izum. The more we went to the east, the more welcome we felt. So in terms of is it ethical or not, I would say it's like beyond positively ethical to go. This is just important, how do you go there and which message are you going to send from there. So in this sense, they told, guys, welcome anytime, you know? And my final thoughts here is that, you know, you went through the process of de-Russification, de-Sovietization. Your parents probably felt in the 50s or 60s, right, when the area got controlled by the Russian army. and so on. So Ukraine kind of, for us, it took a little bit more time to close these ties, but Ukraine now is just repeating the process of liberalization, of founding ourselves as the nation with identity, with understanding, a little bit further. And it's normal, because this is the entire historical process. What I do feel now is that we eventually became a Western nation, and we eventually were embraced by the entire civilized world. And Ukraine at the moment serves in some sense as the shield of this free world. So we have to build the more connections we do, and this like historical process will just carry on. So remember about Ukraine, as I explained you are absolutely welcome to go there. And if you want to reach out for more questions, you are welcome to do so, but I would like to show you a video for the end. Do we have a video? Did we have a chance to download it? Yeah. Let's do it on YouTube, okay? Or maybe, oh, yeah, this is it. Okay. Yeah, this is from 3 weeks ago. Can I make it sound better? So we made it to Kharkiv. Oh. Oh, okay, thank you.
This was an incredible visit. First of all, it really shows that the spirit of Ukraine is unbreakable.
Слава Україні!
You are really the only first group of such kind of tourism.
I realized nothing really changed in 350 years. Russians are still slaves, and Ukrainians are still free.
Welcome in Kyiv, capital of Ukraine.
Слава Україні! All right, we made it to Lviv.
We are back.
Well, looking forward today for the walking tour.
that first they gave up their life for the Soviet Union, and now people are giving their life fighting against the successor of the Soviet Union.
It's touching to see everyday life go on, how resilient people are. So in the middle of a full-scale invasion, still have.
One of the reasons of our tour of Nomad Mania is to show to the rest of the world that it's possible to come to Ukraine.
Ukraine is spectacular. It's one of my favorite countries in Europe.
All right, so thank you and welcome to Ukraine.